The Force is old and full of shadows.
He is warm. That is the first wrong thing. The last thing he remembers is cold. The cold of the Emperor's throne room. The cold of the floor beneath his knees. The cold that had lived inside him for 23 years finally breaking open, like a wound that had refused to heal. Luke's hands on his mask. Luke's voice saying "Father" one more time, like a man who refused to stop believing in something the entire galaxy had given up on. Then warmth. Then nothing. Then this, his lungs drag in air with a violence that nearly doubles him over. His back is against stone, Coruscant stone, cold and gritty, the particular texture of a pillar in the Senate District Plaza, and his hands, he stares at his hands, are shaking. Both of them. Gloved in dark leather, 5 fingers each, the left one trembling against his thigh with the strange aliveness of flesh that has forgotten it is supposed to be afraid of nothing. He is 22 years old. The knowledge arrives not gently but all at once. A wall of information, the Senate building behind him, the amber twilight of Coruscant at dusk spreading across the skyline like spilled copper, the distant hum of repulsor lift traffic 20 levels above, the faint smell of ozone and recycled air that is the singular smell of this city planet. This specific hour. This exact night. He knows this night. His right hand moves toward his hip before he catches it. Instinct. 20 years of Vader's instinct, reaching for a weapon that belongs to a man he no longer intends to become. He pulls the hand back, presses both palms flat against the stone, and breathes. Steady. You know where you are. You know when you are. You know what comes next. What comes next is footsteps. He hears them before he sees her. The particular rhythm of someone trying to walk calmly while their heart is doing something else entirely. He knows that rhythm. He spent 2 decades trying to forget it. He turns toward the sound. Padmé. She rounds the corner of the pillar, and the sight of her hits him somewhere below the sternum, in the place where grief has lived so long it has its own address. She is luminous. That is the only word his 22-year-old vocabulary and his 45-year-old memory can agree on. Luminous. The kind of beauty that is not about the shape of a face, but about the quality of the attention behind the eyes, and her eyes right now are doing something complicated. Hopeful and terrified in equal measure. The face of a woman who has rehearsed what she is about to say 100 times, and is no longer certain any of the rehearsals will hold. She is wearing a deep blue traveling cloak. Her hair is down, loose, and the Coruscant wind moves it softly. She stops 2 meters away. Looks at him. His stillness throws her. He can see it, the slight recalibration behind her eyes. The way she searches his face for the anxious boy she expects, and finds something quieter instead. Something settled. Ani. Her voice is careful. You've been out here for almost an hour. I know, he said. Another pause. She takes 1 step closer. Her hands are clasped in front of her, knuckles just slightly white. I need to tell you something. He doesn't move. He doesn't help her into it. Doesn't rush to fill the silence the way the boy he used to be always did, talking to cover fear. Talking to keep the world from going quiet enough that he'd have to feel it. He lets her have the moment. He owes her that much. He owes her every moment she never got. She takes a breath. I'm pregnant. The word lands in the amber air between them. 3 seconds pass. The traffic hums 40 levels up. Somewhere distant, a shuttle's engine changes pitch on descent. The city breathes and doesn't notice that the entire axis of a man's life has just completed a circle. The dam breaks. It doesn't happen the way she expects. There is no fear on his face, no flash of the trapped animal she has been bracing herself against. His knees simply fold, deliberate and quiet, and he goes down onto the plaza stone in front of her, and before she can speak or move he has pressed his face against the soft fabric at her stomach, and his shoulders are shaking. Not with grief. The sound that comes out of him is something she has never heard from him, something between a sob and a laugh. Something that has been compressed for 23 years under the weight of a black mask and a broken chest, finally released. His hands find her waist. He holds on. Ani. Her hands drop to his hair, uncertain, frightened. "Ani, you're scaring me." He pulls back just enough to look up at her. His face is wet. He is smiling. "I'm not scared anymore," he said. "That's what's scaring you." The confusion on her face sharpens into something harder. A senator's face. The face of a woman who deals in information for a living and has just received a piece of it that doesn't fit the pattern. "How are you?" She stops. Starts again. "This should terrify you. This should be, Luke and Leia," he said. Complete stillness. Her hands stop moving in his hair. The wind moves. She doesn't. "What did you just say?" He stands. Slowly, the way a man stands when he is choosing each movement carefully, when he knows the next 60 seconds will require her to believe something that has no rational framework. He is still holding her hands. "Luke and Leia," he said again, quietly, "a boy and a girl. Luke will be fearless and kind and stubborn in a way that will remind you of yourself every day. Leia will be fearless and brilliant and stubborn in a way that will remind her of you every day also. She'll be a senator before she's 20. He'll be..." He stops. Something moves across his face that is too large to name. "He'll be the best of both of us. Better than either of us. I know their names because I knew them. I watched them save a galaxy I helped burn down." Padmé does not step back. This is what he has always loved most about her. When ordinary people step back, she steps toward. Her eyes are moving across his face with the focused intensity of a woman reading a document for hidden clauses. "Tell me," she said. "Not tell me you're joking. Not tell me what's wrong with you. Just tell me." So he does. Not all of it. Not the volcano. Not the mask. Not 23 years of being something he cannot find a word for in any language she knows. He gives her the architecture, not the interior. A future that ends in fire. A war the Republic loses before it knows it has fought one. An emperor who is already in the building behind them, already smiling at senators, already winning. Children born in secret and hidden across the galaxy. A son who refuses to stop believing his father is still inside the monster. An old man dying warm on a metal floor, feeling for the first time in decades like himself. And a second chance he does not know how to explain, except to say, he is here, he is awake, and he intends not to waste it. When he finishes, she is quiet for a long time. The sun has dropped below Coruscant's skyline. The city goes gold, then amber, then the deepest bruised purple of an artificial dusk. Her face moves through something, not doubt, exactly, something more like a mind reorganizing itself around new load-bearing information. She is a politician. She deals in truth and the performance of truth every day of her professional life. She knows the difference between a man constructing a lie and a man telling her something that is costing him. This is costing him. "How much time do we have?" she asked. He exhales. "Steady. Not much." Palpatine moves fast once he decides to move. She nods once, small and precise. "Then we start planning," Padmé said. "Not I believe you, though she does. He can see it. Not I forgive you for a future that hasn't happened yet. Though someday, he thinks, she might." Just the pivot. The immediate, practical, Padmé Amidala pivot toward what can be done. The first flicker of something that feels, improbably, like hope. He looks at her. The woman who loved him before he knew how to deserve it. The woman who died forgiving him in a version of events he is now going to take apart, piece by careful piece, until none of it can come true. "Together," he said. She takes his hand. "Together," she agreed. The blinds are drawn. Padmé's apartment sits 40 stories above the Senate District's main thoroughfare, and on any other night the view through those windows would be Coruscant at its most hypnotic. A vertical city blazing with 10 million lights, speeders threading between towers like luminous needles, the whole impossible organism of galactic government humming at full operational pitch below. Tonight the slats are closed. The room is lit by a single low lamp on the kitchen table, and the two of them are seated across from each other with a datapad between them and the particular quiet of people who know that what they say next will matter for a very long time. Anakin speaks first. "We can't kill him." Padmé's eyes come up from the datapad. "I know you're thinking it," he said. "I thought it for years. The first decade I thought about almost nothing else." He sets his hands flat on the table. "A dead chancellor with no evidence is a martyr. The Senate buries the story. The Jedi become assassins in every history book written for the next 1,000 years. The Republic fractures anyway, just on a different fault line. And someone else steps into the vacuum we created. We've handed them the exact ending Palpatine would have chosen for himself." She is quiet, processing, not resisting. Processing, there is a difference with Padmé, and he has always known how to read it. "Proof before punishment," she said. "Proof before punishment." She sets the datapad down, folds her hands. That means getting close to him. It means staying close to him. He holds her gaze. "I'm already there. That's the only advantage we have. He trusts me. Or he trusts the version of me he thinks he's built. I need to keep him believing he's still building it." A long pause. The lamp between them throws a circle of warm light that doesn't quite reach the walls. "How long?" she asked. "Long enough to get what we need." "Not a day more." She nods once. The way she nods when a decision has been made and her mind has already moved to the next problem. This is, he thinks, why he married her. Not just the courage. Anyone can find courage when the stakes are obvious. It's the speed, the absolute refusal to be paralyzed by the weight of a situation when something can still be done. He loves her so completely it sits in his chest like a second heartbeat. "Then go," she said softly. "And be careful." The Galaxy's Opera House. Coruscant's premier performance venue. The outer lobby gleaming with white stone and recessed lighting. The air carrying the faint orchestral warmth of Mon Calamari music drifting through gilded doors. Clone troopers stationed at measured intervals. Polished and anonymous. Senators and their entourages moving in and out in small clusters. The social performance of the powerful, the right nod to the right face. The slight adjustment of posture when someone important enters the room. Palpatine's box is on the upper level. Anakin has been here before. He knows the geometry of this room, the placement of the guards, the particular acoustic quality of the corridor outside the Chancellor's private entrance, the way sound carries and how to use it. He climbs the stairs at the pace of a young general with something on his mind, which is precisely what he is, and the guards outside the Chancellor's box step aside without challenge. Palpatine is alone. He is standing at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, watching the water ballet performers move in their illuminated sphere below. He doesn't turn at the sound of the door. He already knows who it is. He always already knows. "Anakin," he said, warm as a hearth fire. "I'm so glad you came." He gestures to the seat beside him without looking away from the performance. An invitation that carries the specific texture of inevitability. "Sit, because of course you will sit. Because this is what we do, you and I, in this room, in this ongoing conversation that began so long ago neither of us can precisely remember the first word." Anakin sits. For a moment neither of them speaks. Below, the Mon Calamari performers move through their slow aquatic choreography, and the music builds in long, patient phrases. Palpatine watches with what appears to be genuine appreciation, his expression mild and cultured and utterly unreadable to anyone who hasn't spent 2 decades learning to read it. Anakin has spent 2 decades learning to read it. The old man is working, even now, even here, the setting chosen, the silence timed, the proximity calibrated. Everything Palpatine does in private is a performance constructed for an audience of one. Anakin used to find it flattering. He understands now that this is simply the man's nature, as constant as a planet's gravity. Not malice, exactly, but the absolute inability to stop. "The Jedi Council hasn't changed their mind," Anakin said. "No," Palpatine replied, almost gently. "They haven't. They want me to spy on you." A slight tilt of the head, something that might be sadness, worn with long practice. "I know. Be careful of them, my boy. Their attachment to the old order blinds them to how much the galaxy has already changed. He pauses. Below, a performer turns in a slow, unhurried arc. They fear you, what you represent. A Jedi, who cannot be contained by their traditions. There it is, the seam. 20 years of intimacy with this man's methodology, and Anakin can hear the exact moment when observation becomes architecture. The careful placement of a self-concept that will support the structure Palpatine is building. You are exceptional. You are misunderstood. You are mine. He lets his face do what is required. A flicker of something, the old hunger, the old wound, responding to pressure exactly as conditioned. He has been performing emotions his whole life, first from genuine feeling, and then from desperation, and finally from survival. One more performance. The last one. There is a quality to the dark side of the Force, Palpatine said, his voice dropping to something conversational, almost intimate, that the Jedi have spent millennia trying to convince you is dangerous. Not because it is, but because it is powerful. And power, properly understood and properly guided, he lets the sentence breathe, can preserve what you love most. Anakin is quiet for a moment that is exactly the right length. What do you mean? He asked. Low, careful, a young man's voice with something raw at its edge. Palpatine turns to look at him now, and his eyes in the dim light of the opera box are very still, very old. Whatever affection lives in them is real and genuine and entirely consistent with his capacity to destroy everything Anakin has ever cared about, because Palpatine has never experienced a contradiction between those two things. Have your visions returned? He asked. A beat of 2 seconds. Yes, Anakin said. The Chancellor's expression shifts, just slightly, into something that functions as compassion. Tell me, and Anakin tells him. Not the truth. A precise, careful construction. Enough fear in the architecture to feel real. Enough detail to feel specific. Calibrated exactly to the story Palpatine has been trying to write since the boy from Tatooine was 9 years old and sat across a much larger table and said, "I dreamed about you." He gives the man the signal he is listening for. The particular emotional frequency Palpatine has spent a decade trying to tune him toward. The old man leans forward almost imperceptibly. There, that movement. He remembers it, the slight lean of a predator who thinks the prey has finally stopped running. You already told me this story once, old man. The internal voice is calm, almost fond in a way that costs him something to examine. I believed it. I was 22 and terrified, and you were the only person in the room who told me what I wanted to hear. You told it beautifully. You get one. Palpatine speaks for another 4 minutes. The words wash over Anakin with the precise, specific meaninglessness of rain on stone. He nods at the right intervals. His expression gives the old man everything he is reaching for. When Palpatine finally falls quiet and turns back to the performance with a small, satisfied exhale, Anakin allows himself a single, controlled breath. The performance has begun. Later, on a walkway above the city's middle levels, the wind pulling at his robe and the canyon of light dropping away below him in both directions, he opens his comm. Padmé, I'm here, she said. He watches a freighter slide through the air 3 levels down, its running lights blinking slow and red. The performance begins now, he said. A pause on the line. Then her voice, quiet and certain. Then come home safe. We have work to do. He closes the comm. Below him, Coruscant burns with 10 million lights, and somewhere in that city an old man is smiling. Certain he has finally won the thing he has been patient enough to wait for. He has never been more wrong. Obi-Wan's quarters are dark when Anakin arrives. Not sleeping dark. The kind of dark that means someone is sitting in it deliberately, the way Jedi sometimes do when the day has been too loud and the mind needs something quieter than thought. A single meditation candle on the low table, burned most of the way down. The orange light it throws is just enough to see by, and not enough to hide behind. Obi-Wan is in the chair by the window. He turns at the sound of the door, and the first thing that crosses his face is the automatic warmth. Anakin, it's late. "What's?" before something in Anakin's stillness stops it. "Close the door," Anakin said. Obi-Wan closes it. Anakin moves to the two small surveillance nodes embedded in the upper corners of the room, standard Jedi Temple security installation, unremarkable, unnoticed by anyone who doesn't know exactly where to look, and disables them both in 4 seconds with 2 precise applications of the Force, not violently. Just a gentle, surgical interruption of the power feed, the kind of thing that registers on a monitoring board 3 levels down as a routine fluctuation. Obi-Wan is watching him with an expression that has moved well past concern into something more alert. "I learned the security architecture here the hard way," Anakin said. He pulls the second chair to face his former master and sits. "Trust me when I tell you that what I'm about to say needs to stay in this room." "Anakin," the voice is careful, "you're frightening me." "I know. I'm sorry." He leans forward, elbows on his knees, and looks at the man across from him with the full weight of 45 years of living. "I need to tell you something true. I need you to hear all of it before you respond. Can you do that?" A long pause. The candle between them gutters slightly in a draft from somewhere. "Yes," Obi-Wan said. So Anakin tells him. He does not plead. He does not perform. The boy who used to fill every silence with words because silence meant something bad was about to happen, that boy is not in this room tonight. What sits across from Obi-Wan Kenobi is a man who has carried a truth for so long it has become structural, load-bearing, the thing his rebuilt self is organized around. He tells it the way you set something heavy down, carefully, completely, with relief. He tells him about the future. Not all of it. Not in a way that would take hours, not every battle and betrayal and burning planet. The architecture. The shape. Palpatine is Darth Sidious. The war they are fighting was designed by the man who asked them to fight it, the inhibitor chips in every clone trooper's skull. Order 66. The Purge. The Empire. 23 years of a galaxy that forgot what the Republic was supposed to be. He tells him about Mustafar. He doesn't spare himself. That is perhaps the only rule he sets himself going in. No version of this where he comes out looking better than he was. He tells Obi-Wan about the temple, the younglings, the rage that felt, in the moment, like clarity. He tells him about a woman he loved dying in a medical bay because he had crushed the hope out of her without touching her, and about a suit of black armor that breathed for him for 2 decades because the lungs inside it were too damaged to manage it alone. He tells him about a volcano, and a duel, and a brother who had no good choices and made the only one available. When he finishes, the candle has burned to its last centimeter. Obi-Wan has not moved. The silence in the room is the kind that has weight. Not empty but full, packed with the specific density of a man processing something that has no existing framework. His face, in the candlelight, is very still. His hands, resting on the arms of the chair, have not moved since approximately the temple. "Anakin," he said finally, very quietly. "I want to ask you something. Anything. Geonosis." He says it quietly, not a question, his eyes moving to the middle distance between them. "When you came back to the arena, you said that you ignored my order to wait. You told me not to engage Dooku alone." Anakin said. "I engaged him anyway. You took the lightning he used to stop me. That was my decision and my fault." He holds the older man's gaze. "There were others. Calls I made in the field across the war that put you in harm's way when they didn't have to. I carry those." He pauses. "But what happened on Mustafar was entirely mine. I need you to understand that. The choices I made were mine. Not yours. Not Padm's. Mine." Something moves through Obi-Wan's face that is too complex to name. "I should have seen it," he said. "You weren't supposed to be able to see it. He spent years making sure you couldn't." Anakin shakes his head. "Don't do what I spent 20 years doing, Obi-Wan. Don't carry what belongs to someone else." Another silence. The candle goes out. The room drops into the ambient blue dark of Coruscant night light, filtering through the window. And in that light, Obi-Wan looks older than he is, the way people sometimes do when they are holding more than their own grief. Then something shifts in his posture. Small, almost invisible. The thing a man's body does when it stops resisting. You said Padmé knows. Padmé knows. And she believes you. She believes me. Obi-Wan exhales. A long, slow breath through his nose, the kind that is less about air and more about recalibrating. He looks at Anakin across the dark room with the expression of a man who is arriving somewhere he didn't plan to be, and finding it, against all expectation, solid ground. You apologized, he said, when you walked in, for things that haven't happened yet. Yes, and for Mustafar. Something moves at the corner of his mouth. Though I notice what you said was what happened on that planet was mine. That is not an apology. That is a statement of causality. The thing that moves across Anakin's face in response is not quite a smile. It is the expression of a man who has missed something very specific without being able to name it, and who has just heard it again for the first time in a very long time. I'm sorry, he said for the volcano. Obi-Wan nods once. It lands between them not as absolution. Neither of them is naive enough to suggest it could be that simple, but as acknowledgement. A receipt. The beginning of an accounting that will take longer than tonight to complete, but that has, at least, now begun. What do you need from me? Obi-Wan asked. Anakin straightens. I need you to do nothing, he said. For now. I need you to go on exactly as you have been, the mission to find Grievous, the work with the Council. Nothing changes on the surface. Palpatine is watching everyone close to me, and the moment you change your behavior he'll notice and start asking questions we don't want him asking yet. A slight tension at the corner of Obi-Wan's jaw. I'm not certain I'm built for doing nothing while I'm not finished, Anakin said. I need you to go on as normal, and I need you to be the person I contact when the plan is ready to move. Not before. When I come to you and say it's time, I need you to trust me completely, and I need you to be ready to move without warning. And Padmé's role? She's already working the political side. The delegation of 2000 is the mechanism. Bail Organa, Mon Mothma. The legal framework already exists. We're going to fill it with evidence. Obi-Wan is quiet, thinking. In the blue dark his eyes are moving with the specific focus of a man running logistics. Not whether but how, not should I, but what does this require? This is what Anakin came for, not permission. Not forgiveness. Though he has been given a measure of it, he didn't expect this quickly. He came because every plan needs its second pillar, and there is no one in this galaxy, in any version of this galaxy, in any timeline he might have lived through, who he would trust with this more than the man across from him. All right, Obi-Wan said. 2 words, simple as a foundation stone being set. All right, he said again, quieter, more to himself. He looks out the window at the city. Then we'd better not waste the time we have. Anakin stands. Obi-Wan stands with him, and for a moment they are simply 2 men in a dark room, the future enormous and unwritten between them. Obi-Wan extends his hand. Anakin takes it. No words. None are needed. 20 years of silence on one side of the Force, and 20 years of grief on the other, and a handshake that means, this time, we finish it together. He walks to the door. Anakin, he turns. Obi-Wan is still standing by the window, the city's light at his back. I'm glad, he said simply, that you came back. Anakin holds that for a moment, sets it somewhere careful. So am I, he said. He steps into the corridor, the door closes behind him, and somewhere across the city, in a spire overlooking the Senate, an old man sits in the dark with no idea that the architecture he spent 50 years building has just developed its first true crack. Camino from above looks like a mistake, an entire planet given over to ocean, gray, green, and restless under a perpetual storm sky, the waves running in long, violent swells that have no shore to break against. The platform cities rise from the water on stilts like arguments against the weather, white and sterile and geometrically precise, the architecture of people who have decided that nature is a problem to be solved rather than a condition to be lived in. Landing approach cuts through cloud cover so dense the city disappears and reappears in sections, piece by piece, the way a classified document is revealed when someone decides you finally earned the next line. The Kaminoans built this place to grow soldiers. Anakin knows what that means now in a way he didn't the first time he landed here, 12 years ago, wide-eyed at the scale of it. He knows what the white corridors contain. He knows what the growth tanks are for, and what the chips inside the developing skulls are for, and what the calm, long-necked beings who move through these halls with such quiet professional pride are participating in without ever being told. The gunship sets down on Platform 7. He has filed the visit as a routine inspection, a senior Jedi general conducting operational review of clone battalion readiness, standard procedure, nothing requiring advance notice to the Chancellor's office. This is true. It is also the thinnest possible version of the truth, which is the only kind that holds up under scrutiny from Palpatine's intelligence network. Because a complete lie has edges that a careful reader can find, and a thin truth has no edges at all. Lama Su meets him at the landing platform. The Kaminoan Prime Minister is 3 meters of pale composure in white robes, his expression carrying the particular serenity of someone who has never in his professional life had cause to be surprised. He inclines his long neck in greeting. "General Skywalker, we were not expecting you." "Last-minute inspection," Anakin said. "The Council wants updated readiness assessments on the Torrent Company battalions. I volunteered." He lets a rueful edge into his voice, a young general slightly burdened by administrative duty, nothing more. "I was hoping, Ton, we could walk me through the medical bay records. Performance data, health metrics, the usual." A half-second pause. Lama Su's dark eyes move over him with the calm, thoroughgoing attention of a being who has spent his career evaluating product. "Of course," he said. "We are always pleased to assist the Republic. Ton Wei is efficient, gracious, and entirely focused on the wrong things." She walks him through battalion health records with the pride of a craftsperson discussing their finest work, casualty rates, healing factors, the remarkable resilience of the accelerated cellular structure. She gestures at displays, pulls up comparative metrics, explains in soft, precise language the ways in which these soldiers exceed the baseline human template in every measurable category. Anakin listens, asks the right questions, nods at the right intervals. What he is actually doing is navigating the medical bay's central command database, the system that manages the activation architecture for every inhibitor chip in every clone currently in service, the relay through which any Order 66 signal would have to pass before reaching its destinations, is 3 rooms away from where they're standing. He clocked it on the walk-in. The access terminal requires a Kaminoan biometric key and a Republic medical clearance code, both of which he does not have and does not need to have, because the Force is not a biometric system and has no clearance requirements. He needs 4 minutes alone. "I'd like to review the neurological data independently," he said, during a pause between Ton Wei's explanation of accelerated bone density protocols. He keeps his voice mild, slightly technical, the voice of someone who has prepared a specific question and is now getting to it. The Council's medical division flagged some anomalies in the cognitive performance reports from the Outer Rim battalions. Probably nothing, but they want eyes on the raw data before the next deployment cycle. Ton Wei's expression doesn't change. "I can pull those records for you." "I'd prefer to run the comparison query myself. The Council's formatting request is specific, and it's easier to just pull it directly." He offers a slight, apologetic smile. "I'll just need a few minutes at the primary terminal." A pause. Not suspicion, consideration. He is a senior Jedi general with active clearance and a plausible reason. There is no protocol being violated. There is nothing here that should require a second thought. "Of course," she said. "Room 3. Down the corridor. I'll be at the main desk if you need assistance." "Thank you," Anakin said. She leaves. He waits exactly 6 seconds, then walks to room 3. The terminal is exactly where he remembered. He sits in front of it, places both hands flat on the console surface, and reaches. Not physically. The access panel doesn't require his hands, only the presence behind them. The Force moves through the system's architecture with the particular fluency of a current finding the path of least resistance. And what he is feeling for is not the records Ton Wei thinks he's reviewing. He is feeling for the relay. Not the chips themselves, those are physical implants in living skulls, unreachable by any means short of surgery, and he has never entertained the idea that tonight changes that. What he is looking for is the transmission architecture. The central command relay that sits at the top of the signal chain, the mechanism through which any Order 66 broadcast would have to pass before it ever reached a single clone in the field. The chips are the locks. This is the key registry. And a key registry can be rewritten. He finds it in 40 seconds. There it is. Palpatine's fingerprints, unmistakable. The same quality of darkness he has felt for 20 years in Imperial command systems. The same architectural logic, just younger, cleaner, not yet operationally active. A channel that has been built and is waiting to be used. He traces the relay structure inward, following the signal pathways layer by layer, and the further in he goes the clearer the design becomes. A single broadcast frequency. Authenticated by a command cipher that exists in no Republic directory, designed to cascade outward from this facility's relay through every GAR communication network simultaneously. 20 million soldiers. One signal. One moment. He sits with this for a moment. The weight of it. Then he reaches deeper. He cannot touch the chips. But he can reach the relay's authentication layer and leave something inside it. Not a deletion, not a block that a diagnostic sweep would find and flag. A redirect. A single rewritten instruction buried beneath 4 layers of the relay's surface programming, invisible to any scan that doesn't know precisely what it's looking for. That will intercept the Order 66 command cipher at the moment of broadcast and return a null authentication. The signal will go out. The relay will receive it. And the relay will find, quietly and without alarm, that the cipher does not match the record it now holds. 20 million soldiers will feel nothing. They will continue their duties. The channel will exist, and the frequency will simply no longer carry anything that means what it was built to mean. It takes him 3 minutes and 50 seconds. When he lifts his hands from the terminal, his jaw is tight, and his breathing is controlled in the specific way of someone who has just done something that required more of them than they expected. Not difficulty, the technique itself is not beyond him. The weight of the knowledge is. 20 million lives. The number sits in his chest and refuses to become abstract. He pulls up the formatting query Tanwi thinks he's running. Lets it load. Stands. In the corridor outside, Tanwi meets him with a data chip. The files you requested, she said. Formatted to Republic Medical Division specifications. Thank you. He takes it. Everything looks standard on the neurological side. I'll flag it clean to the Council. She nods, unhurried. Will you be requiring anything further, General? No, he said. You've been very helpful. He means it. In a way, she will never know. The gunship lifts from Platform 7 into the storm. Below, the white city shrinks into the gray of the ocean, and the ocean shrinks into the gray of the cloud cover, and Camino disappears entirely like something that was never there. The rain hammers the viewport in long diagonal sheets. A clone pilot adjusts the heading without comment, professional and calm, entirely unaware that the man sitting behind him has just quietly dismantled the mechanism designed to turn him into a weapon against everyone he has ever trusted. Anakin looks out at the storm. He thinks about 20 million men grown in tanks on a water planet, living accelerated lives in white corridors, fighting a war they were manufactured to fight. He thinks about the ones he has known. Rex, Cody, Fives, the ones with names they chose themselves, because no one gave them any. The ones who carved identities out of the narrow space between one battle and the next. He thinks about Fives, who almost found this, who died for getting close. Not this time. The gunship breaks through the cloud layer into open sky, and the storm falls away below, and above the atmosphere Coruscant is already a glowing point on the Navicomputer display. He opens his comm. It's done, he said. Padm's voice comes back immediately, as if she has been waiting with her hand on the receiver. All of it? All of it. A breath. Then, come home. He leans back in the seat, closes his eyes, lets the hum of the engines fill the space where 20 years of nightmares used to live. On my way, he said. Rex finds him on the training deck at 0400. not by accident. Anakin has been here for 2 hours, running forms alone in the dark with the overhead lights dialed to minimum, not because he needs to practice, but because his body needs something to do while his mind works. And saber forms are the only thing he has ever found that satisfies both requirements simultaneously. The blade hums in the quiet. The footwork is automatic. The thinking underneath it is anything but. He hears Rex's boots on the durasteel before the door opens. Couldn't sleep either, Anakin said, without turning. Rex steps onto the deck and stops at the edge of the sparring circle, helmet under his arm, his expression carrying the specific quality of a man who has something to say and hasn't yet decided how to begin. He is in base armor, pauldrons on, the blue markings on his white plating catching the low light. He looks at Anakin the way good soldiers look at commanders they respect and are worried about, directly, without apology, with the weight of genuine concern underneath the military bearing. "Sir," he said, "you've been different." Anakin deactivates the blade. Turns define different. "Settled," Rex said, like the word costs him something. "You've been settled. Since Coruscant. The men have noticed." He pauses. "I've noticed." Anakin looks at his captain for a long moment. CT 7567. Rex, the best soldier he has ever commanded in any version of his life, a man who should by every right have been given the order to kill him and obeyed it, a man who carved loyalty out of his own chest and offered it freely to every Jedi he served beside, and received nothing from the Republic in return except more war. The relay is rewritten now, has been, since Kamino. But Rex doesn't know that. Rex doesn't know about the chips at all. Doesn't know that somewhere inside the hardware of his own skull there is a door that has been quietly bricked over at the source, that the signal which would have ended him as a person and turned him into something else entirely will never arrive, that he will live out whatever life he manages to build beyond this war as himself. Completely and without interruption. Anakin is not going to tell him tonight. What he is going to do is something he should have done a long time ago in a version of events where he had the presence of mind to see what was right in front of him. "Sit down, Rex," he said. Rex sits on the equipment bench at the edge of the deck. Anakin pulls a crate across from him and sits on that, elbows on his knees, blade across his thighs. The training deck around them is empty and still. "The war is ending," Anakin said. "Not the way the Council thinks it's ending. Not the way the Chancellor has told the Senate it's ending. The way it actually ends, the real mechanism of it, is going to become visible soon. And when it does, it's going to move fast." Rex's expression doesn't change. He is listening with his whole body. "When that happens," Anakin continued, "there may be orders. Orders that come from above your command structure. Above mine. Coded orders. Emergency frequency. Something that will feel. The briefings will call it a contingency protocol." He watches Rex's face. "If that order comes, I need you to do nothing. A beat." "Nothing," Rex said. "Nothing. Stand your men down. Hold position. Wait for direct contact from me or from General Kenobi." He pauses. "Can you do that?" Rex is quiet for a long moment. The kind of quiet that means thinking, not hesitation. A soldier's mind running the operational parameters of what he's been asked. "You're telling me there's an order coming that you're asking me to refuse," Rex said carefully. "I'm telling you there's an order coming that will not be what it presents itself as. And you can't tell me more than that. Not yet." Soon Anakin holds his gaze. "I need your trust, Rex. I know I'm asking for it without giving you the full picture. I know what that costs." Rex looks at him. The blue markings on his armor, the faint scarring at his jaw from a piece of shrapnel on Christophsis 3 years ago that a medic sealed up between engagements because there wasn't time to stop. A life assembled entirely in the gaps between moments the Republic needed him for. "You have it," Rex said. "You've always had it. Simple, no performance, just true." Anakin lets out a breath he has been holding in some form since Kamino. "Pass it quietly," he said. "Cody, Wolf, Bly, the battalion commanders you trust. Not as an order, as a conversation. The same way I just talked to you." Rex nods slowly. "And if someone asks me where it came from, tell them it came from me. I'll own it." Another nod. Rex stands, settles his helmet under his arm. He pauses at the edge of the deck. "General," he said. Anakin looks up. "Whatever's coming." Rex holds his gaze one more time. "We're with you." He leaves. The door closes. The training deck is quiet again. Anakin sits on the crate in the low light for a long time, the deactivated saber in his hands, and thinks about a man named Fives who died alone in a hangar, trying to tell someone exactly what Anakin has just confirmed, and about the kind of courage that doesn't get recorded in any official history, because it happens in the dark between the battles, and about 20 million men who will never know what was almost done to them. He thinks, not this time. Commander Cody takes the conversation differently. Where Rex is economical with his reactions, Cody processes outwardly, a slight narrowing of the eyes, a shift in stance, the body language of a man cross-referencing what he's hearing against everything he knows and finding the sum of it unsettling in a way he can't yet fully articulate. They meet in a supply corridor on the lower level of the barracks, between a rack of weapons canisters and a water reclamation unit. Unglamorous and visible, exactly right. "You're asking me to disregard a direct command order," Cody said. "I'm asking you to hold position and wait for verification," Anakin said. "Those are different things. In the moment they feel identical, sir. I know." He doesn't argue the point. Cody is right. In the moment, with a signal coming down the command chain and the full authority of the Republic behind it, standing down will feel like the hardest thing he has ever done. Anakin has no interest in minimizing that. What I'm telling you is that the order will be wrong. Not mistaken, deliberately wrong. And you will have about 4 seconds to decide. Cody looks at him with the flat, measuring attention of someone who has spent his entire life making decisions under impossible time pressure. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. "Because you deserve to know. Because when the moment comes, I don't want it to be the first time you've thought about it." Anakin pauses. "And because I trust you." The last sentence lands differently than the operational context around it. Cody absorbs it with a slight adjustment of his weight, something shifting in the set of his shoulders that is not quite softening, but is adjacent to it. "Rex vouches for this?" he asked. "Talk to Rex." A long pause. The water reclamation unit cycles through a pressure check and releases a soft mechanical sigh. "All right," Cody said. "I'll hold the line." By 0700, Anakin has spoken to 6 battalion commanders. He does not script any of the conversations. Each one is different because each man is different. Wolf requires the strategic logic laid out plainly, the operational reasoning, the chain of consequences. Bly asks 2 questions and then goes quiet for so long, Anakin almost speaks. Before Bly simply nods and says understood with the finality of someone who has made a decision they intend to keep. Jesse wants to know if the Jedi are in danger. Anakin tells him the Jedi are in danger, and that this is precisely the point. No one refuses. Not one of them. He stands in the corridor afterward and understands something he should have understood the first time. That these men were never the danger. Were never going to be the danger, not without the mechanism Palpatine installed to make them into it. Their loyalty was always real. Their choices, in every version of events where they were given the chance to make them freely, land here. In this corridor. Facing the same direction. He thinks about Palpatine's clinical certainty, that clones are instruments, tools, variables to be calibrated. The utter failure of imagination required to look at Rex, at Cody, at any of them, and see only a weapon. The rage that thought generates is brief, clean, and informative. He files it away. There is still work to do. Bail Organa's private office in the Senate district is the kind of room that has been designed to communicate trustworthiness. Dark wood paneling imported from Alderaan. Bookshelves with actual physical volumes, a studied choice in an age of datapads, the deliberate statement of a man who values what endures. A single window overlooking the Senate building's eastern facade. The great dome catching the last of the afternoon light and holding it. The furniture is arranged for conversation rather than hierarchy. No desk between host and guest. Just chairs at angles, the architecture of equals. Bail is standing when Anakin arrives. Mon Mothma is already seated, her white robes precise, her expression the particular neutral of a woman who has spent her career making sure her face reveals nothing before she has decided what it should reveal. Padmé is beside her. 2 senators and a general's wife in a private office at an unscheduled hour. To anyone watching the building's entry logs, Anakin Skywalker visited Senator Amidala, a husband stopping by. Nothing more. Bail extends his hand. General Skywalker. Anakin takes it. Senator, he sits. Places a small data chip on the low table between the chairs. Doesn't reach for it again. Lets it sit there like a fact that has decided to become physical. What we're about to discuss, he said, doesn't leave this room until we decide together that it does. After you've heard it, you'll both understand why. He looks at Bail, then Mon Mothma, then back. And I need you to understand before we start that I'm not here as a Jedi General. I'm not here representing the Council. I'm here as someone who has information that belongs to the Republic and to the people in this room specifically. Mon Mothma's expression hasn't moved. Go on, she said. He goes on. The financial trails first, Palpatine's covert funding architecture, the channeling of Republic emergency appropriations through a cascade of shell corporations that terminate, every one of them, in separatist war production accounts. He walks them through the structure plainly, without theatrical emphasis, the way you present something that is damning enough on its own merits to require no dramatization. Bail leans forward approximately 40 seconds in. Mon Mothma's pen stops moving. Then the communications intercepts. Recorded transmissions, encrypted on frequencies the Chancellor's office officially has no access to. Between Coruscant and Separatist High Command. Tactical information. Republic fleet movements. The kind of intelligence that explains, with sudden and horrible clarity, why certain campaigns have failed in ways that should have been impossible, given the Republic's resource advantages. He lets them sit with that for a moment. This is, Bail said carefully, an extraordinary claim. Yes, Anakin said. The implications of this material, if it's genuine, it's genuine. Bail looks at Padmé. Something passes between them. 2 people who have worked together long enough to conduct entire conversations in 2 seconds of eye contact. How did you obtain this? Mon Mothma asked. Her voice is level. Not accusatory. Precise. The question of someone who understands that the chain of custody on evidence matters as much as the evidence itself. Carefully, Anakin said. Legally, within the framework of Jedi operational access to Republic secure systems. Nothing on that chip was obtained through any channel that can be challenged in a Senate proceeding. He pauses. I had help from a slicer I trust, and I will produce them as a witness, if it comes to that. Mon Mothma picks up the data chip, turns it over once in her fingers, sets it back down. You understand what you're asking us to do with this, she said. I'm asking you to finish what the delegation of 2000 started, Anakin said. The petition you've been circulating. The request for Palpatine to relinquish emergency powers. It was the right instinct and the wrong tool. You needed evidence and you didn't have it. Now, you do. He leans forward slightly. The legal framework is already built. The political coalition is already assembled. All of it was already there. I'm just giving you what was missing. A silence settles over the room. The afternoon light through the window has shifted to something lower and more amber, and in that light the 4 of them look, briefly, like people sitting in the moment before something history will remember. Bail speaks first. Mon Mothma and I will need 48 hours to verify the material independently. If it holds, he stops. Starts again. When it holds. We'll need to move quickly once we do, because a delay at that point risks a leak. Agreed, Anakin said. The Senate broadcast, Mon Mothma said, thinking aloud, her pen moving again. A full emergency session. Unannounced. We call it under the constitutional provision for immediate security review. That provision doesn't require the Chancellor's approval to convene. Most senators don't know that. And Palpatine certainly won't expect it to be used against him. She looks up. We'd need to move on a day when he has no advance warning. No scheduled absences, no convenient off-site engagements. I can manage his schedule, Anakin said. I have his trust. I'll make sure he's in the building. Padmé, who has been quiet, speaks. There's a risk here that we haven't named, she said. Her voice is careful, measured. The voice she uses in chamber when she wants everyone to hear something they would prefer not to. When this goes public, when the broadcast happens, Palpatine's first instinct will be to reach for whatever emergency mechanism he has left. We need to know what that is, and have it neutralized before the session begins, not after. 3 pairs of eyes find Anakin. He nods once. That's already handled. Bail looks at him for a moment with the expression of a man recalibrating how much he has underestimated someone. "You've been planning this for a while," he said. "Long enough," Anakin said. Across the Senate district, in the executive building's upper floors, Palpatine stands at his window. The city spreads below him in every direction, 10,000 years of Republic history compressed into a single skyline, and he looks at it the way a man looks at something he has already decided belongs to him. His office is immaculate. His desk is clear. Every surface in the room reflects the order of a mind that has been patient for a very long time and is now, at last, approaching the end of a very long sequence. He is thinking about Anakin. He has been thinking about Anakin for 3 days, a low, persistent note of attention. The kind he reserves for variables that are behaving almost correctly, but not quite. The young man is performing his distress with extraordinary fidelity. The fear, the hunger, the barely suppressed grief, all exactly where Palpatine seated them, all responding to pressure exactly as intended. Almost, there is something underneath it, something he cannot locate. A quality of stillness in the space behind Anakin's eyes that has no business being there in a man who is supposed to be fracturing. Palpatine has watched a great many people fracture. He knows the sound of it. He knows the texture of genuine desperation. What he is seeing in Anakin is close enough to that texture that any other observer would find nothing worth examining. He finds it worth examining. He turns from the window, sits, steeples his fingers with the unhurried precision of a man who has nowhere urgent to be, because everywhere he needs to be has always arranged itself around him. The boy is performing. The question is for whom? He reaches for his secure calm, dials a frequency that exists in no Republic directory. "Watch Senator Amidala," he said, when the line connects. "Everyone she meets, every building she enters. Report directly to me." He ends the transmission, sets the comm down. Outside his window, the Senate dome catches the last of the day's light, and holds it, bronze and enormous and, for 23 more years in a version of events that is quietly coming apart. His. Anakin is 3 kilometers away when his instincts tell him to check the surveillance frequency on Padmé's building. He does it with his eyes closed in the back of a speeder, a light force touch on the signal architecture of the intelligence network he has spent 2 decades navigating from the other side. Gentle, invisible, the kind of scan that leaves no trace. He finds the new tap in 40 seconds. He doesn't remove it. He files the information, calmly, in the part of his mind that manages Palpatine's perception of events. Then, he opens his comm. "Change of venue," he said, when Padmé picks up. "For anything that matters, you know where." A pause. Then her voice, steady as always. "Understood," she said. "Tonight?" "Tonight," he closes the comm. The speeder moves through the amber Coruscant evening. Somewhere behind him, an intelligence operative is watching a building where nothing important is happening, filing reports on the movements of a woman who has already moved. He allows himself one small, private thought. 2 days, old man. Enjoy the view. Mace Windu does not sit down. He stands at the center of his quarters with his arms folded and his weight forward, and the expression of a man who has heard something that conflicts with every operational instinct he has developed over 60 years of Jedi service, and who is trying very hard to determine whether the conflict is because the thing he's hearing is wrong, or because it is right, and he has been wrong instead. Anakin gives him the time. "You're telling me," Mace said, "that the Chancellor of the Republic is the Sith Lord we have been searching for." "Yes, and your evidence for this is in Senator Organa's possession. Verified, chain of custody intact, admissible in a Senate proceeding." Anakin keeps his voice level. "I know how this sounds. Do you?" Not a question. It sounds like a Jedi general with a known personal relationship to the Chancellor is making an extraordinary claim with a political motive. He holds Mace's gaze. Which is why I'm not asking you to act on it. I'm asking you to do nothing until the Senate session begins, and then I'm asking you to be available." "Available," Mace repeated, with the specific intonation of a man extracting the weight from a word. "For what purpose?" "Palpatine will run when the broadcast starts. He has nowhere to run to, but he won't know that yet, and a cornered man with his abilities is the most dangerous version of him." Anakin pauses. "I need you and Obi-Wan at the exits. Not to strike first, to close the box." Mace looks at him for a long time. There is a history between them that lives in the room without being spoken. Years of friction, of Mace's precision grinding against Anakin's instinct, of a relationship that never found a gear that worked for both of them simultaneously. Anakin has spent time, in the long retrospective of a life he already finished living, understanding that Mace Windu was not wrong about him. Was not wrong about the risk. Was simply working with incomplete information about which direction the danger would ultimately move. "If what you're describing is accurate," Mace said slowly, "then striking him down in his office was never the right move." "That's how you lose the room and the Republic both," Anakin said. "A dead chancellor with no public evidence is a martyr. We need him alive, in custody, convicted by the institution he tried to destroy." He pauses. "The Republic has to do this to itself. We can't do it for them." Something moves in Mace's expression. Not agreement. Exactly. More like the specific repositioning of a mind that has encountered an argument it cannot immediately dismantle. "I'll be at the East Corridor," he said finally. "Kenobi takes the West?" "Kenobi takes the West." Mace nods once. Sharp, minimal, the nod of a man who has made a decision and closed the door behind it. "Don't be wrong about this, Skywalker. I'm not," Anakin said. The Galactic Senate chamber at session is one of the great spectacles of the Republic. Over 1,000 pods arrayed in a sphere so vast its upper tiers vanish into atmospheric haze. The central platform rising and descending on its repulsor lift column, the noise of it when fully convened a layered, oceanic sound that no recording has ever quite captured, because it is less a sound than a pressure, the physical sensation of hundreds of voices occupying the same air. At 1400 hours it is at full session. The session was called under Constitutional Provision 7-9, the Emergency Security Convening Clause, invoked by joint petition of 47 senators with the Republic Supreme Court's standing authorization. No chancellor's approval required. Most of the chamber doesn't know why they've been called. The official agenda, filed 40 minutes ago, reads, "Emergency security matter. Classified. Disclosure in session. Palpatine is in his pod. Anakin can see him from his position in the observer's gallery, a small figure in the vast chamber, robed in red, his expression carrying the mild, attentive patience of a man who has attended 10,000 of these sessions and expects this one to be no different. He arrived 12 minutes ago, summoned by Anakin's personal message. Something important in the chamber today. You'll want to be present. He came because Anakin asked him to. He came because in his operational model, Anakin Skywalker is still his. The central platform rises. Mon Mothma is on it. She does not raise her voice. She never raises her voice. It is one of the things that makes her extraordinary. This absolute refusal to perform urgency when the content itself will do the work. She simply begins. Senators of the Republic. What I am about to present to this chamber has been verified by independent audit, authenticated by the Republic Intelligence Oversight Committee, and reviewed by 3 members of the Supreme Court under emergency seal. She pauses. One breath. It concerns the individual currently serving as Supreme Chancellor. The chamber shifts. The oceanic murmur drops. And then it rises again differently. Hundreds of beings recalibrating simultaneously. The sound of attention becoming alarm. Palpatine's pod does not move. Mon Mothma nods to the technician at the base of the platform. The displays activate. Every screen in the Senate chamber, the individual pod displays, the central hollow projection above the platform, the public broadcast feeds that carry Senate sessions across the Republic's inhabited systems, fills simultaneously with the same image, a financial architecture diagram, clean and precise, with a single red line tracing from a Republic emergency appropriations account through 7. Corporate shells to a separatist weapons manufacturing facility on Geonosis. The murmur becomes something else. Louder, different in texture. Mon Mothma continues. Her voice carries easily over it. This is one of 43 documented financial pathways identified in the Chancellor's private records. Together they represent the systematic diversion of Republic war funding to separatist military production over a period of 11 years. Another pause. The war this chamber has been paying to win. Someone in this building has also been paying to sustain. The chamber erupts. Not chaos, something more organized than chaos, more purposeful. Senators are talking to each other, pulling up the documents on their pod displays, the ones who already know leaning toward the ones who don't, and saying, keep reading, keep reading. In Bail Organa's pod, 3 other senators have crowded in from adjacent positions. In the Loyalists section, Mon Calamari and Alderaanian senators are already on their feet. Anakin watches Palpatine's pod. It hasn't moved. The small red-robed figure inside it is perfectly still, watching Mon Mothma the way a man watches something he is deciding how to categorize. From this distance, Anakin cannot read his expression. He doesn't need to. He knows what is happening behind that stillness, because he has seen it before, the first microsecond of genuine surprise, in a man who has not been genuinely surprised in 50 years, before the machinery behind the eyes engages and starts building the response. The communications intercepts come next, Palpatine's voice, on his own secure frequencies. Confirming separatist fleet positions to a contact identified in the file index as Tyrannus. His voice is unmistakable. The chamber recognizes it before the graphic identification confirms it, and the sound that runs through the pods at that moment is not outrage. It is the specific, hollow register of people realizing that something they believed was true about the world is not. Anakin steps back from the gallery railing, moves toward the corridor. He opens his comm. He's going to move in the next 90 seconds, he said quietly. East or west, he'll go for the private exit behind his box. Mace's voice comes back immediately. East corridor is closed. Obi-Wan, west is covered. I'm in position. Anakin takes the stairs down from the gallery 2 at a time, unhurried. Below him in the chamber, Padmé has risen in her pod and is speaking. He can hear her voice cutting through the noise with the clear carrying precision of someone who has spent 15 years making herself heard in exactly this room. The Republic does not need saving from its enemies today. Mon Mothma's voice continues from the platform above it all. It needs saving from its Chancellor. The words go out on the broadcast feed to the Republic's inhabited systems. Anakin reaches the base of the stairs and moves into the maintenance corridor that runs behind the Chancellor's private box. And when he arrives at the sealed exit door, he finds it already locked from the outside. Mace's work, 30 seconds ahead of him, and presses his back against the wall beside it, and waits. 38 seconds pass. The door mechanism engages from the inside. The door opens. Palpatine steps through it into the corridor, and stops. The 3 of them are there, Anakin directly ahead, Mace to his left, and Obi-Wan materializing from the shadow of the corridor bend to the right. 3 points of a triangle. No gaps. For the first time in this story, in the amber corridor light of the Senate building's service passage, Palpatine looks at Anakin Skywalker and does not see what he expects. His eyes move across all 3 of them, very quickly, with the speed of a man running calculations. Then, for just a moment, something crosses his face that Anakin has never seen there before. Uncertainty, my boy, Palpatine said. His voice is warm, still performing. Surely we can discuss. There's nothing to discuss, Anakin said. It's over. The corridor is quiet. Somewhere above them, in the vast sphere of the chamber, hundreds of senators are reading the truth about the last 11 years of their republic. Palpatine looks at Anakin for a long moment. Then, he smiles. It does not reach his eyes. Not yet, he said softly. His hand moves toward his robe. The hand stops. Not because Palpatine chooses to stop it. Because Anakin's right hand closes around his wrist in the same instant it moves. A grip with no violence in it yet, just an absolute physical fact. The hand is there, and it is not moving, and neither is whatever Palpatine was reaching for. They stand like that for 1 full second. 3 centimeters of distance between them. Palpatine's eyes at this range are extraordinary. Pale and ancient and burning with the specific intelligence of a mind that has never in its long life encountered a situation it could not think its way out of. He is looking at Anakin the way a cartographer looks at a territory that has appeared on no map he has ever seen. Processing, revising, building the new model in real time. Anakin releases the wrist. Steps back. 1 pace. Gives the old man room not out of deference but out of the deliberate tactical calculation that a cornered predator with no room is more dangerous than one with an inch of space. And he needs Palpatine thinking about options rather than exploding into the only option left. "The concealed comm," Anakin said quietly. "In your left sleeve. I know it's there." He keeps his hands at his sides. "You can use it. That's your choice." Palpatine's eyes don't leave his face. "Whatever you think you've accomplished today," he begins. "Use it," Anakin said. "I want you to." A silence. Palpatine looks at him. Then at Mace, who has not moved, and whose expression carries the particular controlled intensity of a man holding himself at the threshold of action by pure discipline. Then at Obi-Wan, who is watching with his arms loose at his sides and his face completely still. He uses it. His left hand moves to the cuff of his robe with the unhurried precision of a man who has rehearsed this motion, a contingency built into the architecture of his contingencies, the final lever in a system of levers that has never failed to move the machine it was designed to move. The signal is transmitted on a frequency that exists in no Republic directory. Encrypted in a cipher that requires no external key, carrying a 2-word command that has been waiting inside the relay architecture of every GAR communication network for 11 years. Order 66. The signal goes out. Palpatine's expression in the moment after he transmits it is the expression of a man who has just played his final card and is watching the table for confirmation. There is relief in it. A loosening around the eyes. The specific release of someone who has been holding something enormous in reserve and has finally set it down. He waits. The corridor is quiet. The Senate chamber above them is a distant roar. Hundreds of voices. The living sound of a republic in the process of understanding something about itself. It filters through the ceiling in a muffled oceanic register, and under it the maintenance corridor is still, and nothing else happens. No confirmation signal. No acknowledgement on the return frequency. No cascading reports from clone commanders across the galaxy. No sudden silence from Jedi fields of battle as the connection between a commander and their troops simply ceases in the way a light ceases when you cut the power. Nothing. 20 million men are going about their duties. The silence stretches for 4 full seconds. Palpatine checks the device. Transmits again. The frequency returns a null authentication, not jammed, not blocked, simply unrecognized, the way a cipher sounds when the relay on the other end no longer holds a matching record. Anakin watches his face. This is the moment he has thought about most, in the long private hours of planning that have occupied the space where fear used to live. Not the Senate broadcast. Not the corridor confrontation. This, the moment when the most patient man in the history of the Republic realizes that everything he built has already been turned inside out for longer than he knows. Palpatine's face changes. It doesn't collapse. He is too controlled for collapse, too architecturally composed across too many decades of practice for any single moment to demolish the structure entirely. But something beneath the surface of it shifts, and what appears is something Anakin has genuinely never seen there before. Not in the Chancellor's office, not on the theater balcony, not in the years of the Empire, not in the throne room on the Death Star. Raw fear. Brief, almost invisible. Gone in under 2 seconds, buried under the layered composure of a man who has survived everything the galaxy has thrown at him by being better at controlling his face than anyone alive. But it is there. Anakin sees it, files it, carries it. The relay was rewritten, Anakin said simply. Has been, since Camino. The Order 66 cipher no longer matches the authentication record held by the GAR communication network. Every battalion commander in the field has standing orders to hold position and await my direct contact if an emergency signal comes down an unverified frequency. He pauses. 20 million soldiers just felt something pass through the comm channels and move on. They don't know what it was. They're fine. Somewhere in the galaxy, on a dusty outer rim planet whose name the histories will not record, a clone trooper named CT-4903 is in the middle of a sentence when a signal passes through the network and finds nothing on the other end to receive it. He finishes his sentence. His squad mate responds. The patrol continues. He will never know what almost happened to him. None of them will. Palpatine is very still. The device in his hand is a useless piece of hardware. His left sleeve contains it with the same elegant concealment as always, the craftsmanship intact, the mechanism functioning perfectly, transmitting faithfully to a relay that no longer speaks its language. He closes his fingers around it with a precise, controlled movement and lowers his hand to his side. His eyes find Anakin's. "You," he said. His voice is different now. The warmth is gone, not dramatically, not with the theatrical drop that Anakin remembers from the throne room, the moment when the Chancellor became the Emperor and stopped pretending. This is quieter than that. More fundamental. The voice of a man who has set down a mask he has been wearing so long he forgot it was there. Not because he chooses to, but because there is no longer anyone it needs to fool. "This was you," Palpatine said. "All of it. Not a question. An accounting. A brilliant mind completing a retrospective at extraordinary speed. The Camino visit. The Senate timing. Obi-Wan's behavior over the past weeks. The surveillance tap on Padmé's building that went operational and then produced nothing of value. The careful management of every meeting and movement that Anakin has performed with such precision that it read as completely natural. The controlled exhale at the Opera House. The single tell Anakin allowed himself. Palpatine sees it now. All of it, Anakin said. His voice is cold and certain, and carries none of the performance he has been maintaining for weeks. Just the fact, stated plainly, and it ends here. The old man looks at him for a long moment. Something moves through his expression that is almost complex enough to be called grief, not for what he's lost, Anakin thinks, but for what he understands he was looking at and could not read. For decades of belief in his own perception, in the infallibility of his model of this particular young man, and the specific wound of discovering that the model was wrong not because of insufficient data, but because the subject was better at this than he was. That, for Palpatine, is perhaps the sharpest edge of it. "I built you," he said softly. "You built Vader," Anakin said. "I was already here." Mace steps forward. The movement is unhurried, precise. The motion of a Jedi Master who has been waiting for the correct moment and has identified it. He stops 2 paces from Palpatine. "Sheev Palpatine," he said, "by authority of the Galactic Senate, you are under arrest for crimes against the Republic, conspiracy with enemy combatants, and willful subversion of the constitutional order." His voice carries no satisfaction. Just the flat, exact register of a man doing something that has needed to be done for a very long time. "You will come with us." Palpatine looks at Mace, at Obi-Wan, at Anakin last. His eyes, at the end, are unreadable. The long habit of concealment holds even now, even here, in a maintenance corridor with 3 Jedi and no options, and the sound of the Republic discovering the truth about him filtering through the ceiling in real time. Then he does the thing none of them expect. He laughs. Soft, brief, almost genuine. "Extraordinary," he said quietly. "Truly extraordinary." He extends his wrists. Mace produces the restraints without ceremony, and applies them with the efficiency of someone who has waited a very long time for the opportunity to do exactly this, and the click of the locking mechanism is the smallest sound imaginable for the thing it represents. Above them, in the great sphere of the Senate chamber, the Republic's inhabited systems are listening. Below them, in the corridor's quiet, Palpatine stands in binders and looks at the floor with the expression of a man who is already, even now, calculating. Anakin watches him. He has known this man for 25 years across 2 lifetimes, and he does not, for one moment, make the mistake of thinking that the restraints mean the danger is over. But it is a beginning. The restraints last 4 minutes. In the 4th minute, walking the maintenance corridor toward the Senate security holding level, Palpatine stops moving. Not stumbles, stops, with the deliberate precision of a man who has made a decision, the full weight of his body simply refusing the direction he is being walked in. Mace's hand tightens on his arm. Obi-Wan moves half a step closer on the left. Then the force detonates outward from the old man like a pressure wave. Not lightning. Not yet. Just raw telekinetic force, expanding in every direction simultaneously, the kind of output that has nothing elegant about it. No technique, no conservation of energy, just the absolute maximum of what a being of immense power can produce when it stops performing restraint. Mace goes into the left wall. Obi-Wan into the right. The restraints come apart at the locking mechanism, the metal failing not from any cutting implement but from pure kinetic stress applied faster than the material can respond. Anakin doesn't move. He was expecting this. Not the specific timing, not the exact form, but this. The moment when Palpatine's calculus tips from custody is survivable to custody is the end. And the decision that follows from that conclusion. He stands in the corridor with his hands at his sides, while the pressure wave rolls past him and dissipates against the wall behind him, and watches Palpatine straighten from the effort of it. The old man looks at him. A red lightsaber appears from a concealed mechanism in his robe. The blade igniting with the distinctive hiss crack of a Sith weapon, the crimson light it throws painting the corridor walls in moving shadow. Palpatine holds it with the easy, low-weight grip of someone who was killing people with a lightsaber before most of the beings in this building were born. Mace is already back on his feet. Obi-Wan a half-second behind him. Anakin ignites his own blade. Blue. The color catches the corridor walls and throws moving light across all of them. Palpatine attacks. He goes for Mace first. The threat assessment is correct. Mace Windu's Vapid has always been the most dangerous counter to a Sith combatant because it feeds on the dark side's own energy and returns it. And the exchange lasts approximately 4 seconds and covers 6 meters of corridor before Mace disengages to create angles. Palpatine pivots immediately to Obi-Wan, pressing hard, forcing a defensive sequence. His footwork extraordinary for a man of his apparent age, because the apparent age is a performance maintained by a level of force saturation that has kept the body underneath it functional for decades beyond its natural span. Anakin reads the pattern in the first 8 seconds. He is not trying to win a fight. He is trying to create a gap, a moment where one of the three of them is sufficiently occupied that he can move through or past the other two toward the corridor exit, and whatever option exists beyond it. His lightsaber work is not about incapacitation, it is about direction, about steering the engagement toward a geometry that opens a path. Anakin stops the geometry. He moves to the far end of the corridor without engaging, not retreating, positioning, and when Palpatine's footwork drives him 20 degrees toward that end, searching for the gap, he finds Anakin already there, blade low, stance completely settled. Palpatine stops, looks at him. Then, he commits. Full aggression, directed at Anakin specifically, because Anakin is the variable he cannot model, the presence in this corridor that his 50 years of reading opponents cannot fully categorize, and the only way to resolve an unreadable variable is to test it directly. The exchange is unlike anything in the corridor behind them. Palpatine is extraordinary. That is the truth, and Anakin has always known it. Has known it since the throne room on the Death Star. Has known it through 20 years of serving the man who created the circumstances that put him there, has known that what sits inside the robed political performance is one of the most lethal beings in the history of the galaxy. His technique at close quarters is vicious and economical, his blade work finding angles of attack that carry the full weight of a lifetime's mastery behind them. Each movement economical and without waste. But Anakin is 45 years old inside a 22-year-old body. He has dueled in burning cities, on the bridges of star destroyers, in the throne rooms of dead empires, in the corridors of battle stations the size of moons. He has dueled in the dark and in zero gravity, and against opponents whose names history doesn't remember, because there was no one left to remember them. He has dueled Palpatine's greatest weapon, his own former self, and survived it, and stood over the wreckage of it, and learned every lesson that wreckage had to teach. He is not the boy who stood in the Chancellor's office and chose wrong. He never has to be that boy again. The corridor is too narrow for the footwork Palpatine needs, and Anakin makes it narrower, controlling the space, keeping the engagement tight, giving the blade no room to find the angles it requires. He deflects rather than blocks, redirecting force rather than absorbing it, his blade moving in short, precise arcs that cost almost nothing and deny almost everything. Palpatine is burning energy at a rate the body underneath the force saturation cannot sustain indefinitely, and Anakin is barely breathing hard. Mace reads it. Steps back in from the left. Obi-Wan closes from the right. 3 front containment. Exactly what they planned. Exactly the geometry Palpatine has been trying to escape since the restraints came off, now made complete. Palpatine knows it too. He pivots to the center of the 3-way angle and draws. The lightning comes from both hands simultaneously, an output that turns the corridor white for a full second. Not targeted, not precise, just maximum. The thermonuclear option, the thing he saved for a moment when there was nothing left to save it for. It fills the space between the walls completely. Anakin catches it. Both hands. Open, the lightsaber gone to his belt in the single second before the discharge arrives, both palms forward, and the lightning hits them. And does not pass through. It is not an absence of pain. The force of it runs through his arms and his shoulders and into his chest, and it is enormous. The physical sensation of it like catching a falling building. But the force runs underneath it and through it, and the energy finds nowhere to go, and begins, in the open space of his cupped palms, to dissipate. His expression is calm, not strained, not triumphant. Calm, the way the end of things can be calm when you have already paid every price the moment could ask of you and have nothing left to fear from it. Palpatine pours more in. The discharge increases. Anakin holds. His arms are shaking with the effort of it. The body is 22, and the technique requires more than a 22-year-old body was designed to sustain. But the mind driving it is not 22, and the will behind the mind has been forged in circumstances that make this corridor look like shelter. He breathes, holds the center, lets the force do the work that the body cannot. Then he closes his hands. The lightning stops, not redirected, contained, collapsed inward, the energy dissipating in a single hot pulse that singes the corridor walls on both sides and leaves the smell of ozone and scorched metal in the air. Silence. Palpatine stands between 3 Jedi with both arms extended and nothing left in them. The effort of what he just attempted is written in every line of his posture. The first genuine physical exhaustion Anakin has ever seen on him, the architecture of the performed age becoming. For just a moment true, Anakin looks at him across the quiet corridor. Surrender, he said. One word. Quiet. Not a demand. An offering. One final chance, extended not out of weakness, but out of the specific. Earned understanding that mercy offered without weakness is a different thing entirely from mercy offered because you have no other option. Palpatine straightens. His eyes find Anakin's with the last of their ancient, burning intelligence. Never, he said. Soft, final, pure spite. Distilled. Anakin nods once. His blade is back in his hand before the word has finished landing. One movement, controlled, exact, no wasted motion, and Palpatine's lightsaber is in the air and then on the floor, separated from the hand that held it by a single precise disarming stroke that leaves the hand itself untouched. Palpatine stands empty-handed. Mace moves in from the left. The new restraints, force suppression grade, not the standard issue he broke 4 minutes ago, go on with the flat efficiency of a man who has been waiting for this particular moment for a very long time, and finds it, now that it's arrived, not triumphant, but simply necessary. The click of the locking mechanism. Obi-Wan picks up the fallen saber, holds it, looks at Anakin. All right, he said. Anakin's arms are still shaking slightly. He will feel this tomorrow. He will feel it for several days. All right, he said. Above them the Senate chamber roars, a living sound, enormous and human and real, coming through the ceiling like weather. The voice of a civilization learning something new about the shape of its own history. Palpatine looks at the floor. For the first time in this story, In this corridor. In any timeline Anakin has lived through. He looks small. Mace meets Anakin's eyes over the old man's bowed head. Something passes between them. Not warmth. Exactly. Not the easy warmth of a friendship that doesn't exist between them, and probably never will. Something more honest than that. The mutual recognition of two people who were both right about different things, and who found their way to the same corridor anyway. Mace nods. Anakin nods back. They walk Palpatine toward the holding level, and this time he does not stop. The trial lasts 6 weeks. It is, by every measure the Republic has ever developed for such things, the most consequential legal proceeding in 4,000 years of galactic history. Palpatine sits through all of it in force suppression restraints, in a defendant's chair behind transparent steel, in a chamber so packed with press and Senate observers that the overflow is routed to 17 separate viewing rooms in the building's lower levels. He says almost nothing. His defense counsel, appointed, since he dismisses every attorney he has offered within the first hour of meeting them, presents procedural objections with admirable persistence and no success whatsoever. The evidence is, as Anakin promised it would be, unimpeachable. On the 23rd day, the Separatist leadership, stripped of Palpatine's covert support, deprived of the intelligence pipeline that has been feeding them Republic fleet movements for a decade, and presented with a recording of their supposed ideological champion personally directing their military operations for his own political ends, contacts the Republic under white flag. The ceasefire negotiations take 11 days. They are conducted by Padmé Amidala and Mon Mothma jointly, in a room on a neutral station above Bothawi, and they conclude with a signed armistice that neither side calls a victory, because neither side can honestly claim one. The Clone Wars end not with a battle, but with a document. Across the galaxy, clone troopers stand down in stages, battalion by battalion, sector by sector, the organized drawdown of the largest military mobilization in Republic history. Rex supervises 3 demobilization sites personally, moving between them on a tight rotation, and at each one he spends time with the men. Not briefings, just time. The kind of presence that doesn't require a rank or a purpose. Some of the clones will be integrated into a restructured Republic Defense Force. Some will be offered citizenship on worlds that need settlers. All of them will be offered a choice. This is Padmé's legislation. It passes with 2/3 support. The Jedi Council meets in full session for the first time since the arrest. Not in the council chamber at the Temple's Peak. That room, they have agreed without quite saying so, needs some time before it can be used again for ordinary business. They meet in a smaller room on the 3rd level, chairs arranged in a circle that is slightly less formal than the one above, which feels appropriate. Anakin is invited, not summoned. Invited, Mace delivers the message personally, in the hallway outside the quartermaster's office, with the specific directness of a man who has decided that if he is going to do something he will do it, without ceremony. "We'd like you there," Mace said. "Your perspective on what happens next." Anakin accepts without elaboration. He sits in the circle and listens more than he speaks, which is a new experience for him, and one he finds to his mild surprise, that he is comfortable with. The Council is working through something genuinely difficult. The attachment doctrine, examined honestly in the light of what nearly happened. Yoda speaks for a long time about the difference between attachment and love, about a centuries-old conflation of the two that served a purpose once and calcified into a rule that became its own kind of blindness. He speaks carefully. The words cost him something. Anakin does not say "I told you so," because he didn't tell them so. A version of him broke apart rather than speaking, and those are different things. He says instead that the doctrine as written asks Jedi to be less than human as a prerequisite for being good, and that this has never, in his observation, produced goodness. It has produced distance. Mace is quiet for a long time after this. Then he says, "You're probably right." From Mace Windu, in this room, those 3 words land with the specific weight of a thing that has never been said before, and will not need to be said again. Anakin's resignation from the Jedi Order is not a dramatic moment. He submits it in writing, through the appropriate administrative channel, on a Tuesday morning. He cites personal reasons. He wishes the Order well. He returns his formal robe and keeps his lightsaber, because Obi-Wan tells him to, with the specific logic that a good weapon deserves an owner who knows how to use it, and the Order has enough of them. Obi-Wan walks him out of the temple. They stand at the top of the temple steps in the Coruscant morning light, the city spreading below them in every direction. And Obi-Wan looks at him with an expression that is working very hard to be composed and achieving it only partially. "You could stay," Obi-Wan said. "The Council would, I know." Anakin said, "I don't want to stay, I want to go home." Obi-Wan absorbs this. He looks out at the city. "Tatooine?" he asked. "Naboo." A pause. Something moves across Obi-Wan's face that is adjacent to relief. Or perhaps just recognition. The specific look of a man who has finally found the right word for something he has been thinking about for a long time. "Good," he said simply. They embrace. Not the brief, formal contact of Jedi colleagues, something longer, with more weight in it. The kind of embrace that acknowledges a debt too large to ever be fully settled, and chooses to move forward anyway. Anakin goes down the steps. He does not look back. Not because it hurts. It does hurt. A clean, honest hurt like a scar that has healed correctly, but because the direction he is going matters more now than the one he is leaving. Naboo is green and gold in the last weeks before the twins arrive. The lake house sits on the water's edge south of Varakino, surrounded by hills that turn amber in the afternoon light, the lake itself running deep blue and still in the evenings when the wind drops. It is the most beautiful place Anakin has ever lived, and he has lived in it for 2 months, and has not yet stopped noticing that. Has not yet developed the habit of taking it for granted that proximity usually generates. He suspects. He never will. Padmé is extraordinary in these weeks, not in the performed political sense, in the quieter sense of a person operating at full capacity in circumstances that are demanding everything they have. She works from the lake house, comm calls and document review, and the ongoing legislative reconstruction that the post-war Senate requires. And she does it with the same focused precision she brings to everything, and sometimes Anakin sits at the kitchen table across from her just to watch the quality of her attention moving through a problem. She catches him doing this approximately once a day. "You're staring," she said one evening, without looking up from her datapad. "Yes," he agreed. "Stop." "No," he said. She looks up. The expression on her face is the one she reserves for moments when she is trying not to smile and is losing the effort, which is one of his favorite things in either life he has lived. "You're impossible," she said. "You love me anyway," he said. She sets the datapad down. The evening light through the window is very warm. "I love you anyway," she agreed. The twins arrive on a night when the lake is still. Not in a medical bay, not in the cold clinical environment that Anakin has carried in his memory for 23 years. In the lake house, with a Naboo midwife and a medical droid, and Obi-Wan in the kitchen making tea he doesn't drink because he is too anxious to drink it, and the sound of the lake outside the window, and the particular quality of darkness that exists only in places far enough from cities that the sky is genuinely black. Luke first. Then Leia. The midwife places Luke in Anakin's arms, and his entire nervous system performs something he has no name for: a reorganization, a settling, the sensation of a universe that has been slightly wrong for 23 years clicking into the correct position. Luke is red-faced and furious about existing, which is already deeply familiar, and he has Padmé's mouth and what will eventually become Anakin's chin, and absolutely no patience for the current situation. Leia is quieter. She looks at him with the specific, focused attention of a person who has decided to evaluate the available information before rendering judgment. He thinks, she will be terrifying. He means it as the highest possible compliment. An hour later, on the balcony. The lake below is a dark mirror. The twins are asleep inside. Padmé with them, the house settled into the particular quiet of an enormous thing having happened, and the world continuing anyway. Anakin stands at the railing with both hands on the stone and looks at the water and breathes. Padmé appears beside him. She has a blanket around her shoulders, and her hair is down, and she looks, in the way of people who have come through something enormous, both exhausted and completely awake. They stand together in the quiet for a long time. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. He looks at the lake. At the sky above it, clear tonight, the stars present and unhurried and indifferent to everything that has happened, and everything that hasn't, that I finally get to just be their father, he said. Nothing else. He is quiet for a moment. The lake holds the starlight without breaking it. Just that. Padmé leans into him. His arm goes around her. The blanket extends to cover them both, and they stand on the balcony above the still water of a lake on a green planet. And inside the house, two people who are going to change the galaxy are asleep. And for this moment, for this particular breath, they don't need to. The stars don't move. Neither do they. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.